So with this new E1 generation of SRAM road levers, brakes, whole group set, Rival's now joined Force and Red with this new generation. And just like Force and Red, we've got a really great ergonomic lever. I really like the length up top. Fits my big hands well. And this pocket here that I can get all 3 of my other fingers and knuckles underneath, paired with this really long lever that doesn't really extend too much further below. It's probably about the same spot as previous generations, but it starts up so much higher. Gives you a lot more leverage. And this one finger braking when I'm just cruising around on the flats is almost always enough braking power. And so just like Force and Red, that's the same. Got a little bit different hood profile on Rival. Kind of going with these little Y guys, these little three-sided things, but feels good. I've noticed they do a different hood on Force and yet again a different hood on Red. And I believe that the Force and Red ones are cross-compatible. I'm not sure if these Rival ones are, because the big difference on the Rival is that there's no extra button up here, which Mitch noticed is not really something he's missing too much, but it is a nice feature on the Force and Red to be able to have another shift point when you're up in an aero position, or if you've got more components on the bike that are not the derailleurs, like a dropper, for instance. You could program this to be your dropper on a gravel bike. I've got mine flipped so that this shifts me down my cassette to a harder gear, and then this shifts me up the cassette to an easier gear, and vice versa. And that allows me to shift one-handed if I'm, holding the phone and shooting a video, and be careful, obviously, but, or, taking a sip of my water bottle and all of a sudden, oh, I need to shift. So, those are nice buttons. But otherwise, the performance of these levers from Rival to Force to Red, feels very, very similar. I haven't really had a ton of time on the Force and Rival. I own the red ones, but the braking feels the same. The power feels the same. They are all using carbon levers. They all have pretty much the same shape and feel. So it's nice to be able to get that great lever they've designed at all 3 levels. One big difference, same on the braking, is that the Rival caliper does not have the bleeding edge port. It's just got a bleed screw. So you just take that screw completely out. You thread in your traditional SRAM syringe, the same syringe you'd use on the top. And that works. That's how SRAM did it for a long, long time. But that bleeding edge port is a nice feature. It's a little bit tidier. It's a little bit cleaner. I don't have to take anything out and spill a bunch of fluid if I'm not careful. There's ways to avoid that. It's not a necessary thing, but it's a nice feature. And then moving on, the crank is probably your biggest difference between Force and Red in the entire group set is the crank. It's going to be aluminum versus Force and Red are carbon. They've done a little bit of weight shaving here. We've got a nice little window here. There's some profile in the back that you can see on this crank here. It's a nicely forged aluminum crank. I believe it's forged and not machined, but I could be wrong about that. That'd be something to check on. But regardless, this is probably your biggest weight penalty between Force and Red. But performance-wise, great chain rings. They've got the one-piece direct mount, 8 bolts holding that on from the backside. That one-piece 2-chain ring combo makes it way stiffer, and a stiff chain ring is going to shift better. It's not going to flex when it's going up to that big ring. So getting that with Rival and not having to have a spider with 4 chainring bolts, that shaves some weight too. Probably the only downside of that is, say you were to wear out your big ring and not your small ring, you would have to replace them both. But it's nice to see that it's cross compatible, between Rival, Force, Red, in terms of that mount style being the same. And then the derailleurs, I don't know the weight differences between these. I would imagine between Rival and Red, it's fairly significant, but between Rival and Force to Red, it's probably a small change each. But performance-wise, I don't think you're gonna notice too big a difference in your shift performance, your overall shifting and drivetrain experience is going to be very similar.
So which would you get?
I would be happy on Rival. I do really like the bonus buttons, and I do like the bleeding edge port. The bleed port is not going to be a big deal for most consumers who don't bleed their own brakes. But I do like those buttons, and I'm not too much of a weight weenie, but the carbon crank's pretty nice on the Force. But I'd be tempted to if I was on a budget, I'd be tempted to and I still want those buttons, do the Force levers and brakes, and then a Rival drivetrain.
Nice.
That is the nice thing about SRAM is pretty much all their stuff plays together. I can take these new levers and I can pair them with the previous gen of Rival. I could take Force levers and pair them with the previous gen of Red. I can take those levers and pair them with a mountain bike drivetrain. As long as it's Axis, it's going to communicate.
If it's Axis, you get access.
You get access.
Sweet.
That's a good one. Yeah, other than that, we've, I feel like we've settled into a really nice place for SRAM Road. Really happy with their latest offerings. This lever shape is really where it starts for me. So ergonomic, so much power in the braking with so little effort.
Yeah, I like those levers.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.